Hi everybody, welcome to my little local DayZ 1.15 update experimental server on my local PC. But in this video, I want to show you how you can get loot spawning inside the custom buildings you've spawned. So when 1.15 comes out, or maybe it's out when you watch this video, you can spawn in custom buildings like this military tent here, or this ATC tower here. Ignore all these extra bits I've added onto them. And then if we wander in, you'll see we've got the normal expected loot. So there's a cap, there's some sights, there's a buttstock, there's a smoke grenade. So it's really easy to do. So let's come out of here. In fact, let me just pop up my character on top of this this tent so it doesn't get eaten by anything while we're away. And let's come out and so what I'll do is in the description below the video I'll put the links to the 1.15 experimental blog post, patch note, and the articles from Bohemian Interactive's wiki that explain how to do it. But basically what you're going to be doing is you'll have gone through first and you'll have gone into your server DayZ.config file on PC or on console. I expect this to be in the web interface on Nitrado. So I think probably what's going to happen with Nitrado is they'll either add these things to the web interface. So when you go into your settings, you'll see a thing that says enable CFG gameplay file, or we'll have an advanced settings option where you go into it and you'll see this sort of stuff, because this is the file that tells the game which mission to load, whether it's Chernarus or Enoch, and do the time acceleration, all that sort of stuff. And the one you have to add, the line you have to add or say is 1 is enable CFG gameplay equals 1. And then within your CFG gameplay.json file, which should be in the kind of the root directory for your server. So let's find it here. So for example, say this is your server here, and you go into your missions. Obviously it looks a bit different when you're looking through the web browser. You'll have CFG gameplay.json, and then down in here you'll have object spawner, and then you'll have a file name. So in my case, it's spawnerdata.json. So what you're telling the game to do is look in this file here, this JSON file, and spawn the buildings that are there. So you'll create a spawnerdata.json, and within this spawnerdata.json, you'll have things like this. So name, landmill ATC big, and with the position and the yaw, pitch, and rotation. Or the one we're looking at actually is this one, isn't it? Land mill tent big 3, and then you've got the X, Y, and Z. So you've got X and Z, which are the left and right, up and down, and you've got Y, which is the altitude, and then you've got the yaw, pitch, and roll. Sorry, not rotation. Yaw, pitch, and roll. So yaw is the rotation of the building. And they will then spawn on that. Now, where you get these coordinates from, there's plenty of videos that show you how to do it. The easiest way is if you've got access to a PC that can run DayZ, you can use Inclement Dab's DayZ editor mod, and then you can export JSON files. So you can place buildings down and then export the JSON file, which will give you virtually these details. It's kind of in a slightly different format, but it will work. Otherwise, the other way you can do it is you could go in somewhere like iSurvive, and that will give you the X and the Z, but not the altitude. And I understand that the way the guys do it is they'll go into a server on console and they'll get with a friend, and they'll get their friend to punch them, or they'll do some fall damage or something like that, or they'll kill themselves, and then the game, I think, then gives you the X, Y, and Z coordinate, which you can then place your building. Right, so once you've got that though, you can then spawn in the buildings in the spawn data.json, but they will just spawn in empty. There won't be anything in them. What we need to add is we need to add an entry into the Mapgrouppos file, which again will be in, here we go, where is it? Mapgrouppos, there it is. So it will be in your kind of the missions directory on your server, and the Mapgrouppos file, what that does is it's simply it's simply telling the game at these coordinates and with these rotations, there's one of these buildings, please spawn the items inside them. And then another file, the map group proto file. If you have a look in that file, what that has is it has all the different types of buildings that spawn loot in DayZ, and it has all the relative coordinates of where that loot will spawn. So, you know, for the tent, for example, or the ATC, if we take the tent, for example, the map group proto file will say, okay, so there's a spawn point on this table, there's a spawn point here on this on the floor, there's a spawn point here in the corner. And that's relative to the center point of that tent. And so what the Mapgrouppos does, it says, well, actually, there's one of those tents at this location, and it's at this this roll pitch in yaw. So then the game can then figure out where it should put the loot. So that's why you have to add these two items in. So as you can see, so these are the two that I've added in. So all you can do is you just copy one of the other entries, paste it up, and then put the name of the item that it is. So landmill. Tent big 3, and then your pos is pretty easy. So your pos is your X, Y, and Z, which you've got from your spawn data. So you get X, Y, and Z there. So that's easy. Now roll, pitch, and yaw, you've got to be careful because it's round the other way. So you've got yaw at the end, where in the spawner data yaw is at the beginning. See, so you've got 111 at the beginning. So you put that. At the we're looking at the wrong one, aren't we? Let's go up to, it's the temp we're looking at, isn't it? So the yaw, which is 23, see it's at the beginning there, and then it's at the end there. But you also have another figure. You have A. Now I've got to thank Balshad to this, who told me about this, but this is also rotation. Why there is another rotation bit, I don't know. But you need to work that out because that's different. Now, the way you work that out is that depending on the rotation you get from your spawner data.json, or if your exported file from DayZ editor, you do various things. So you work it out. There's two ways, depending if the yaw is positive or negative. So if it's negative, you take the number 360. Take off the yaw and take off 90. If the number is positive, take the number 360, take off the yaw, and then take off 270. So let me show you what that means. So we bring up the calculator. We go to the spawn JSON. So if we take for the tent, for example, the yaw is positive, isn't it? So let's just copy that. So we know. So it's positive. So it's 360 minus... in fact, I think this number is going to be too big, so let's make it a bit smaller. That. And then minus 270. So the value is 66.9. So if we go back to my Mapgrouppos, you can see, so I've put that in 66.9. Okay, so there we go. So that's how we do it. And then what will happen is when you save that and then you restart your server, the server will know, right, okay, so at this X, Y, and Z coordinate here, there's a military tent, and at this rotation, or yaw, this is that's the reference you should also use for spawning in the loot. And then it will spawn in the loot. Now remember, the way that the central economy works in DayZ, it won't always happen straight away, and also if you're on an experimental server like this, on your local server, if you haven't set up the server to not go to sleep when you leave, as soon as you leave, the server will go to sleep and nothing will happen. So hang around for a bit on the server, go and do some exploring or go and do some building practice, and the loot will then to spawn in. And also bear in mind that if it's vanilla loot settings, you'll only get one or two things if you're lucky in something like a military tent, won't you? They're always pretty barren to do that. So that's basically how you do it. So that's how you add loot to custom spawned buildings using the new 115 method. Okay, so hopefully that's been useful. What I will do is that when 115 comes out for real, and we can do some really good testing on it as well, I will produce some ready to go XMLs that you can just download and add snippets to, or whole XML files to your servers. So you'll have like I think the classic one is at Krasnodar, isn't it? It's at this airfield here. This is a pretty boring airfield otherwise, and it's even raining now. Where you can add, like, I'll add an ATC. We'll add some other buildings as well, and we'll have the loot spawning in them. So it's kind of another reason to visit this place, because otherwise, I mean, there's the new medical tents over there, but that's about it really. Right, so there we go. Hopefully that video has been useful. If it has been, hit the like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe, and I will of course see you again soon.